Hi guys! It's been a little while, eh? Sometimes before I have had the chance to work on videos that I've actually been planning to work on, I get bombarded with stuff that makes me think, and then I'm like scribbling all these notes, and then it's like, okay, I have to make a video about this. So before I get to like that character analysis video I was gonna do, I'm gonna get this out of my system. Now, you'll never guess which anime we're gonna be talking about today. Just kidding. Unless you haven't heard of it, it should be pretty obvious. So BNA, or Brand New Animal, is an exciting, colorful anime produced by Studio Trigger and Netflix. If I were to describe the basic plot to you, it's about a teenager named Michiru who has suddenly, somehow, turned into a beastman. A being that's a bit like an anthropomorphic animal who can take on the appearance of a human form, but ultimately is a different creature. In this world, while some people have fought for equal rights for beastmen, there are many who are afraid of them and even hate them with a passion. So it can be very dangerous to live as a beastman alongside humans. Michiru escapes her hometown for a place where only beastmen live called Anima City in the hopes that she'll be safe there. But once she arrives, Michiru soon realizes that the city isn't exactly what she was expecting. She accidentally witnesses a bombing by some beastman terrorists and meets a powerful wolf beastman named Ogami Shirou who defeats them. Shirou doesn't really believe that Michiru used to be human, but he eventually comes around as he uncovers other suspicious things happening in Anima City. Michiru and Shirou end up becoming something of an unofficial team, working together to find answers as to what's really going on. This show surprisingly deals with some very current issues, but in what I think is a very tasteful and nuanced way. I won't discuss all of the issues explored in this show, but I do want to talk about the show's main theme, which involves the humans and the beastmen's prejudice toward each other. Prejudice is a tough subject to tackle, and more often than not, in fiction, I see it tackled in a very one-sided and unrealistic way. But I'm happy to say that I don't think that's the case here. The question this show asks is, how do we respond to prejudice? Now, I know and believe that prejudice is a bad thing, and not something we should take lightly. But I also think that our response to it can either make things worse, or it can potentially change things for the better. It's easy to respond to prejudice with contempt and anger because it's bad, and I get that. But I'm also reminded of an old saying, you can't fight fire with more fire. I think there are many ways that we can apply this saying to our lives, but I'd encourage you to think about what that looks like for yourself. But here's BNA's take on it. Oh, and overall, I think the show does a really good job of illustrating how beastmen and humans are all different from each other, and yet very much the same. Here are just a couple of examples. Anima City is not some paradise like Michiru at first thought. It is a culture with similar problems to her own, and it even has some problems that are unique to beast culture. In other words, the beastmen are very flawed, just like humans. The villain of the show, Alan Silvasta, believes that mixed-breed beastmen are not real beastmen, and that he is far superior to them because of his being a pureblood. He claims that even the great immortal Silver Wolf can't compare to him, and that he cannot develop Nervicil syndrome like all the other beastmen that he is manipulating, again, simply because his blood is pure. But in the end, Alan is very much humiliated when even he realizes that he can develop the syndrome just like everybody else. He's not better than them. In fact, he's much worse. But back to my initial question, does the show answer it? When Michiru first meets Shirou, she immediately finds out that he despises humankind. But she bravely responds by telling him that she used to be human, and that not all humans are bad. Shirou does not agree with her because his judgment is so clouded by his own horrible experiences with humans in the past. What Michiru doesn't know at first is that Shirou watched humans murder and oppress his people in so many different ways for 1,000 years. This is quite understandable, right? And yet, the show also shows us that Shirou was afraid of failing his people as the great protector of beastmen. He's so afraid to face this fear that he refuses to see the beastmen's own flaws and accept that some things are not just because of the humans, but are out of everyone's control. But despite her being previously human, even Shirou can't resent Michiru too much. I think this is because by the time he does understand and believe her, he's had the chance to get to know and understand her a bit, and in spite of himself, he develops a soft spot for this child. Now, Michiru is also, understandably, very frustrated with Shirou's stubbornness throughout the show, and yet she doesn't let that stop her from working with him and even helping him. And when she discovers that Shirou is the legendary Silver Wolf and gets a taste of what he's been through, Michiru realizes that she has never really made an effort to connect with Shirou and understand him, because she didn't like how much he hated humans. Again, this is understandable, but Michiru decides that not giving Shirou a chance is actually a prejudice on her part, because she was judging him without even trying to understand where he was coming from first. Around the show's climax, Michiru chooses not to jump to conclusions about Shirou, even after seeing him get violent and break the law. Even though she's scared and confused, Michiru doesn't accuse him. Instead, she actually apologizes for never truly trying to understand him, and begs him to help her understand what's going on with him right now. In doing this, Michiru beautifully de-escalates the situation, and Shirou, who was so angry and violent before, is calmer now, and he even apologizes for scaring her. The thing is, I don't believe Shirou would have responded in this way if Michiru had gotten angry and accused him. Even though it would be understandable, I think that would have made the already tricky situation escalate even further. Michiru is really amazing. She is someone who didn't ask to be made into a beastman and to have to work and live alongside a completely new kind of people. But by the end of the show, Michiru willingly gives up the chance to become human again, because she has come to care about Anima City and realizes that she now has the unique opportunity to connect with both beastmen and humans and bring them together, because she has experienced being both. Understanding people who are different from you, making an effort to connect with them, and then inviting them to understand you better. From what I get from BNA, this is the most effective way to respond to prejudice. And this response is so powerful that it can sometimes turn a conversation, a situation, and even a person around for the better. Yes, even Shirou, by the end of the show, becomes open and optimistic toward the idea of living alongside humans again. He's also less violent and no longer so afraid of failure. This is all because of one girl who made him feel truly heard and understood for the first time, even after he was unkind to her. As hard as it can be to accept, I think the truth is, we can't rightly assume very much about anyone, even people who seem bad. We just don't know the whole story. We don't know what they've been through, and we haven't seen the world through their eyes. But at the end of the day, it's still up to us how we choose to respond. Do we take sides and attack anyone who hurts us? Or is it better to really try to understand each other and live at peace?